Hello and welcome to Creative Walks episode 46. And today I wanted to talk about this very cool exercise that I never explicitly told people, and it was very important to me I think 13 years ago. It started a very cool process in my life, and I never really talked about it explicitly. So I decided that it would be cool to put it on audio in this podcast. This was created by, unfortunately I don't know the exact place, so I'll give you the general context in which I first did this exercise. Back in 2007, as I was working in the Brazilian Ministry of Science and Technology as a communications advisor, and very unhappy with my work there, I discovered this book. I think it's called The Pathfinder. It was a book about trying to find your vocation, trying to find which kind of work you want to do, and it was very helpful when I was thinking about it, when I did all the exercises in that book. So I recommend, if you are trying to figure out your passions and all those things, I think it could be a cool place to go. Today, I think there are so many other options and so many people giving advice on how to find your passion and all that stuff. But this specific exercise has many different uses, and I had come back to it again and again throughout the last 13 years. So I'll lay down for you how I did it, and then you see if it's something that you would like to try. I think it's very beneficial. But just to set the context, I was thinking of what can I do, because back then I was between continuing my work as a government employee or to go into a more artistic field, which seemed completely out of the blue, like becoming a photographer, like an actual fine art photographer, was very unrealistic. And the other option would be to go back to school and finish my physics degree and become an astronomer. So you can think of how far that those ideas were. Oh, also I'd like to make movies. So those are the ideas that I was thinking of. I came across this exercise, and I think it happened when I was looking into a magazine. I think it was Esquire magazine, some sort of like men's magazine that is not like Playboy. It's one of those more like style and fashion and lifestyle for men, even though I'm not into those things at all. But it had, I think it was one of those magazines. It had an interesting exercise that was like, write down 100 things or 75 things that you want to do. And those could be small, big, could be things to learn, places to visit, projects to accomplish, things to have, basically like a bucket list of a bunch of things that you'd like to do and think. And I didn't give much thought to it, but then I thought, it could be interesting. And I did the exercise one day that the light had gone out. I was living in Brasilia, which is usually a very dry city, but it always has like 1 or 2 months where it pours rain out of the sky without stop. And since it is a city that is drilled in corruption, there's corruption everywhere, including in how they maintain the power lines. So whenever it rains, lights go off even in wealthy places. So I was at my house alone, and it was like pouring rain, and I could hear this stereo sound of rain pouring because I had 2 balconies, one in the front of the room and the other in the back of the room, so I could hear like the skies falling. Then I decided to light a candle and just chill. This is before there were like iPhones and things like that, so you really had no option to be entertained except if you wanted to read or do something like that. But I really don't like to read by candlelight because I wear glasses and it bugs my eyes. So I said, you know what? Let me try this exercise. And the cool thing that I found out on my case was that you start writing things, and it's not supposed to have any order or particular like structure. So you start writing things down. And the first 30 will be like sort of like top of the mind, what's on your mind. That would be interesting. But around 30 you start making things up, like, oh, maybe I want to like buy a company, or like whatever like lofty things you're thinking of. And then around like 45 or 50 it starts actually getting interesting. And then you actually, when you're done with your list, And it seems like it's a lot, and then you start doing it and you think you're going to fill this paper out really fast, and you actually don't. It actually gives you some interesting ideas. And the cool thing about that is not really the projects themselves. It's the kind of patterns that you see when you look at them on paper together. When I looked at my list on the first time, I saw this surprising thing that it had things like, for example, play for professional dancers, for example. And back then I was not playing drums at all, except in parties or with my friends. And it seemed like a very unrealistic thing. And then there were things like have my own band, learn these languages, visit the pyramids at night. It had like lecture at companies in universities. Like there's all sorts of things. And then there are like random things like design clothes and snowboard in cool places, create a VR video game, create a board game. There are all sorts of things. And then over time, like every 5 years or so, I go back to that list and I rewrite it like by hand. And the interesting thing is that some of those things, even though I forgot that I had put it on the list, they actually came to be true. And the other things, whenever I look at them, I actually almost cringe because it's things that are completely not on my radar. And I kind of remember why I put those things on the list. And I thought it would be like a cool exercise in many different ways. So for me, it actually got this idea that because there are so many design-related projects there, that I thought, maybe I want to do a MBA or a design degree, and that actually inspired me to actually move to Canada and go pursue a master's degree. Then many years later, I decided to put some new ideas on that 75 list and cross out some other ones. So I decided that it would be cool to, right now in this stage that I am in my life and like a month and a half before my birthday, I thought, let's take a look at those 75 things again. And it's so cool to see like so many things that actually came true, even if in a little way. And especially because yesterday I had all these ideas of basically a board game, then a video game and a book, or at least a comic book that would combine all these ideas that I was thinking of. And suddenly they became very clear, like, they can be connected in this way. So it's sort of like the beginning of the world building creation. And it was very exciting and very unlike what I am working on right now. So I'm sure I'll be able to integrate it somehow later on in the future. But in any case, I love having those ideas and having new projects coming in, even if what all they say is for me to focus on whatever I have right now, actually. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that's my suggestion for today. Like, try to do this exercise. Write down 75 things you want to do. They can be big, they can be small. I would recommend just writing down cool stuff you'd like to have done. And then later on, you can analyze what kind of things that appear there. For me, they were all about action, creation, creating cool things and putting them in the world. And then later on, I found out that there was like this whole section that was all about self-improvement, like getting fit or learning new skills or things like that. And as I look at some things that I'd like to add now, they are more about also creation, but a little bit more about service. Like, how can I help my dad with this, or my mom with this, or my nephews with this? So it's all about this more, let's say, family and community-based projects. And I think even if you don't get much out of your list, I'm sure the exercise of writing it down will inspire some cool ideas and unlock some projects. So if you do this, let me know what you do and how it goes, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.